start recording then. And yeah, I think we're good to go.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to 2021, the year that we've all been looking forward to and seemed like it was never going to get here. Yeah. So we made it. Right. And lots of good things are happening already in the first few weeks. So welcome to 21. And I'm Tim Jensen with the Contra Costa Flood Control District. I'm facilitating the meeting today. And if you have any items you want to discuss, we'll make sure we'll fit you in somewhere on the agenda. I already heard from Helen that there's some people that are available earlier, and so rearrange the order. For example, Amanda Booth, when she jumps on, we're going to try to take hers right away. And then there's some other people. I think Patrick Phelan from the city of Richmond, he's going to come on around 11, and that'll be his opportunity to do his. So we won't necessarily follow the agenda, but we'll make sure that everybody gets on there. And if we get to the end and I forgot to call on you, then go ahead and raise your hand and we'll let you talk. That's the whole purpose of this, is to coordinate, communicate, and exchange information. And so we want to encourage that. So, and then we'll do introductions. I guess I'll try to coordinate it a little bit, but everyone's screen has people in different orders. So we'll just try to get through everybody. And like I said, I'm Tim Jensen with the Contra Costa Flood Control District and facilitating the meeting today. And then I'd like to hand it off to Riley.
Riley, I'm here representing CUSP. So when we do the CUSP report, I'll step up on that.
Great. Peter, please. Unmute, Peter. This is a good opportunity for everybody to unmute their phone for a few minutes, unmute themselves.
I'm Peter Mangarello with Trout Unlimited.
Thank you, Peter. Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Puckett. I have my own consulting firm, and I'm currently working for American River, or with American Rivers, as a consultant on the Ream Creek project.
Sarah, what is the name of your consulting firm?
Sarah Puckett Water Resources Consulting.
Nice. Anthony, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Anthony Falzone. I'm with Flow West.
Great. Jonathan, can you go next?
Sure. Jonathan Owens from Balance Hydrologics. For people who may not know me, or there are a few new people, Balance, sort of in combination with the city of San Pablo, runs has taken over, or took over a number of years ago, the gauging at the USGS gauging station. So that's some data that we're collecting on the creek.
On Wildcat Creek at Vale Road, I think it is?
That's right.
Okay, great. Joe, can you go next?
Yes. Hi, Joe Neugebauer. I'm the Environmental Programs Manager for the West County Wastewater District.
Great, thank you. Adela, can you go next?
Hi, I'm Adela Ho, retired from City of San Pablo, longtime watershed resident. Currently, I have my own consulting firm, and I'm also, one of my gigs is I'm working for Urban Tilth, and I also occasionally do work for Contra Costa County.
And I think you live in the Wildcat Creek watershed.
I sure do, and I ride my mountain bike nearby Wildcat Creek all the time.
Yep, great. Juliana, can you go next?
Yeah, Juliana Gonzalez with the Watershed Project. I am the executive director, and so yeah, we do a lot of work in the West County creeks, including San Pablo, Wildcat, Ream, and the neighboring areas.
Thank you, Juliana. Next, Janine, please.
Hi, I'm Janine Strickland. I'm a local landscape architect and currently working on a master's in urban forestry.
At Cal?
Actually, Oregon State University.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm here in Berkeley.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do everything online nowadays.
Yep.
All right. Rich, can you go next?
Rich Walkling, Restoration Design Group. We're working on the Urban Tilth Rain Garden project, the Wildcat Greenway project, and the Ream Creek project.
Excellent. Amanda, can you go next, please?
Amanda Booth, City of San Pablo, environmental services, or she's environmental program analyst. Can't even remember my own title these days. I work with all the creek and trail projects in the city.
Thank you, Amanda. And Jesse, can you introduce yourself? Jesse, you're on mute. All right, it says Jesse Alberto Point Pinol, so it must be East Bay Regional Parks. Still stuck on mute. All right, well, next we'll go to John Steer.
Yeah, hi, I'm John Steer with the Watershed Program at the county and Watershed Planner there.
Thank you, John. Melinda Harris.
Hi, I'm Melinda Harris, and I'm with the County Watershed Program as well. And I also would just like to inform everyone that the Watershed Program will be hiring watershed planners, and so that notice should go out soon.
All right. Yep, thank you. And last but not least, Emily Jacinto.
Hi, my name is Emily Jacinto. I am the relatively new fisheries biologist for Contra Costa, Alameda, and Santa Clara counties. I think this is my first meeting with this group, so excited to be here.
Oh, great. Are you a Fish and Wildlife or United States or California? Which one?
California, CDFW.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. All right. Take it away with Amanda. You wanted to go early, so we'll get you out right out the gate. Are you ready?
Yeah, hi everybody. Sorry, there's a statewide illegal dumping task force that's going on right now that I'm also trying to hop back and forth on. So I appreciate you letting me go first. I don't have a whole lot of updates from the last month, but so the Wildcat Creek Trail project, we're expecting to be substantially complete by the end of mid-February. And so we'll be opening the trail to the public in March. The project won't be completely done until the summer. We're waiting for some trees that need to grow before we can get them and then plant them. But it'll be, I mean, for the public's perspective, they won't know the difference. And so it's going to be open in March. And so we'll be releasing a video. We'll let everybody know. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a big ceremony, obviously, because of the COVID spike right now, but we're very excited. And the project looks good for anybody that kind of walks around there right now. So pretty excited. So we're expecting early March to do a big opening. Well, by big opening, and we mean sending emails around to let people know it's open and doing some social media posts. Also, we have a bit of a update on Rumrail. So the Rumrail Complete Streets project, the plans are done for that, and we'll be releasing the RFP in February. The only thing we're waiting for is some final okays from Caltrans, and so that'll get going, and so that'll start to be built and constructed late this summer. And then we are finalizing our park application for the park that's at the 2600 Moraga Road. So we're going for the state parks grant. And so we did move to the northern parcel, and so we are directly adjacent to Ream Creek there. And so if we get the funding, we'll obviously come back to the group, and particularly the Ream Creek kind of project team, and see if there's any sort of synergies that we can get between those two projects. Those are the three main projects. I'm trying to think if there's any. El Portel's completely done at this point, and so that project is launched, or it's open. That's been open for a little while now. The only other one that may not be interest of this group is we're going to be doing we got some funding to do a design for a cycle track on Giant Highway between Brookside and Parr. So this is right next to San Pablo Creek, adjacent to the railroads right there. And the reason why this group may or may not be interested is because we do have a lot of encampment and illegal dumping issues that make it into the creek right there. I'm sure flood control knows. all about that, unfortunately, because that's their area. But we are hoping that these bike lanes, there's going to be some now physical barriers. If we get the funding, it looks like we will. There's going to be some physical barriers so that people can't go into that ditch and then dump into the creek and in that ditch area. We'll see how that goes, but that's kind of an exciting potential new project that we're working on right now. A couple of complications being next to BNSF, but we're working through that with the CPUC. So those are all the main updates I have. We're still doing a lot with our illegal dumping task force, but we're doing a lot of planning right now just because of COVID. We can't really do much actual community work right now. So we're just planning on doing a lot of outreach and then doing a lot of audits and all sorts of things to reduce the trash issue in San Pablo. So that's just something we're prepping for right now. Other than that, I have been receiving a lot of emails regarding grants that are going to be opening up. And so I might forward that on to Helen. I have a feeling most people in this group know about a lot of these grant programs, the environmental mitigation, and the state parks outdoor equity, and then the state parks grant. And then there's one other one that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll make sure to forward those around and so that the group knows of some potential funding opportunities coming up. That's it from me. Any questions?
Congratulations on the trail. It's great news.
I'm very excited.
And I said this last time, but it looks fabulous.
Oh.
Really, really a huge improvement, and it's beautiful.
Something this group has dreamed about for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
So, as well as the creek restoration part.
Yeah.
It's just too bad someday there will be buildings on the San Pablo Avenue side of it, but
slowly but surely we're getting there. In fact, just as a quick kind of side note on that, my very first day in San Pablo, I don't know if you guys remember this, but my very first day, Josh Brandt and Ann Riley, and I'm trying to think if there's anybody else in the council, they had a meeting with the old public works director, and it was my first day, and I was, you know, you guys were so adamant about wanting this project and moving it forward, and I was just like, I don't know what anybody's talking about right now. So I'm so excited that literally my first meeting on my first day, I've been able to watch the project come all the way to fruition. So
awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, we look forward to the day when we can meet in person at the library and then go outside and check out the trail. So hopefully this summer or fall we can do that.
Definitely. Once it's
Great.
safe, we'll definitely be doing a lot of tours and whatnot at the site. So
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. And now we'll head on to back to the agenda. Number 2, CUSP report from Riley.
All right. The California Urban Streams Partnership will have a contract imminently with Contra Costa County. We just need another notary on a signature. And then we will be firing up our property owner assistance program. At the moment, if you are aware of property owners in Contra Costa County, you could be in a city of San Pablo, Richmond, or unincorporated, who need help with managing a creek problem on their property. You can call us. We're putting on hold actual property visits because we hit the COVID peak. And we're hoping that by mid-February, things may be a little safer. So we're just following, basically the county advice, county public health department advice on safety. But if there are property owners who need help, forward their contact information to us. We will stay in touch with them and hopefully get to them in the next, 8 weeks. So, yeah, but if you give us their email and phone number, we will get in touch with them right away.
Thank you. And I wanted, I guess, to share a little bit of a apology because it's been tough going through our legal department, et cetera, but I think we've overcome those hurdles.
Right.
And then the other thing, I think some good news, there was a site that you looked at at the base of Mount Diablo on Green Valley Creek,
Yes.
where it was just head cutting and eroding pretty badly. But with your recommendations and advice, they came up with a large log repair. I think it's PAL that RDG I think was helping them with.
Yeah, I
So
think that was mostly an RDG project. I don't believe we really got involved with that.
But I think you did
we
visit
have
this.
been involved with Green Valley Creek in a couple sites. But I think that's an RDG site. I'm not sure we referred them. We might have.
The way I remember it, you visited the site initially and said, "Wow, this is too big. You're not going to have, it's not one small site. It's multiple sites over hundreds of feet." So then it got kicked over to RDG, and yeah, it sounds like it'll be interesting. I've never seen that design with anchoring the logs into the soil and then anchor them to each other, and almost like tinker toys or pickup sticks or whatever that are crisscrossing and kind of looking like maybe looking like a beaver dam. So it'll be interesting to see that project get built and then take a look at it as it heals itself, hopefully, and stops all the erosion. Anyway, I digress. Thank you, Riley.
Yep.
And then urban tilth, I don't see Nathan here.
No.
Do you have something?
Yeah, he couldn't make it, but he sent me an update. So what he wrote was that Urban Tilth's watershed restoration crew has been focusing on essential tasks at Cerrito and Wildcat Creeks over the last few weeks. They also just completed their annual vegetation survey at Lower Wildcat Creek, focusing on the mitigation area immediately downstream of Fred Jackson Bridge. Over the last 4 years, they've planted about 415 hand-grown California native riparian plants on site. And last week we counted 391 native plants at our planting sites, a 94.2 survival rate. Some plant species did experience some mortality, but they were replaced by other species that reproduced and created new individuals on site. Particularly happy plants that increased in number over the study period included mugwort, California bee plant, soap plant, and yarrow. And they also reduced invasive species cover in the study by about 30%. He's happy to share the full results, including survivorship by species, with anyone who's interested.
And if I could jump in on that, just to remind folks that the planting that was done there was designed by under a Coastal Conservancy planning grant that Urban Tilth got, which covered both the Fred Jackson Way rain gardens and these restoration sites on Wildcat Creek. And that plant palette was developed by RDG, who was our designer for that. And so what we're planning to do is to put together a little report back for Coastal Conservancy so that they, know that what we came up with was implemented and how it's looking pretty successful. And that was all supported by the Watershed Council, by your letters of support and your review of the plans as they were developed a couple of years ago.
Adela, while you're talking about the Urban Tilth property, do you have an update on, I think two things I'm hearing about is the land acquisition. They're going through a process with Supervisor Joya to help out. And then number two, the construction project that I think is happening this summer.
Okay, so for people who are not familiar, now I'm shifting to that was talking about creek restoration. Now we're talking about the North Richmond farm property, which is, it's bordered by San Pablo Creek on the north, but it's a 3-acre parcel at the northeast corner of Fred Jackson Way and Brookside Drive. And the so the rain garden project was, which I had mentioned early just previously, was also funded. The design was funded by Coastal Conservancy, and together with the watershed project and the county, we are part of the North Richmond's Watershed Connections project that John Steer was integral in getting a grant, another Coastal Conservancy grant for construction. The status of that is I think we'll have the final submittal in hopefully next week, and we're hoping that that will move forward, as well as the contract with the county for reimbursement of the grant monies. And I'm sure Tim knows the details of that. So hopefully that'll be moving forward. At the same time, Urban Tilth is working on acquiring that property, that three acre property from the county. It currently belongs to the county. We have a 30-year lease. And in order to access funding for construction of the ultimate farm project, which is more than just a farm, but also watershed education center, community kitchen, farm stand cafe, et cetera. Basically a community gathering place. We realized that we would be in a much better position to access all of those funds if we actually owned the property. So we've been working with county real property and with the help of Supervisor Joya on acquiring the property, and it's moving forward.
Interesting. Is there any possibility of an ag trust helping with this? Because I know there's ag trust, but those are mostly in East County.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with those, so I don't know. But the actual, I mean, the purchase price, what the amount that's been discussed is, is very doable.
Good.
Yeah, and but if the county first has to offer it to other public agencies, I guess, is part of the process. So I think they're in that process right now. Okay. If nobody else wants to snatch it up, then we actually have, through our capital campaign that we've launched, actually have funders who are willing to cover the purchase price that's been discussed so far.
Oh, awesome. That's great news.
Yeah. And just as an aside, also the capital campaign is really moving forward. As you may know, the cost for the ultimate build out of the farm is huge. And we have a capital campaign launched, and we're actually also applying for a Prop 68 grant. And that was, I don't know if we got it on the agenda because I remembered at the last minute, but last time I had asked for if we could get a letter of support from the Watershed Council for our application. And the application will be for the gap funding for the rain gardens, because it's going to cost more than we had originally estimated a couple of years ago. And also for educational components for the farm, including the watershed classroom, and outdoor classrooms within the farm, etc.
Yeah,
great.
We could just jump on that now. And Adela sent me a great draft of the letter already.
Okay, yeah. Somebody want to make a motion to accept the letter of support and have me send it on behalf of the council?
I'll make it. John Steer.
Great. Thank you, John. Any second?
Sure. I second Juliana Gonzalez.
Thank you, Juliana. Any other questions or issues about the letter? It's pretty standard thing that we do, and it's very helpful and an easy thing to do. So, okay, well, all in favor of having the letters sent, say aye or raise your hand or something.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Good. Thank you. That sounds like it's passed. Great. Yeah, Helen, get that over to me and I'll sign it.
Absolutely.
Thank
You have Adela, you have a deadline of when you need it?
before, I think the grant is due March 12th. I don't need, and I'm not clear on whether they're, whether they actually, sometimes they specifically say no letters of support, but I have not seen that in my research. So sometimes for, actually by Valentine's Day would be perfect.
All right. I think we can make that happen.
Okay.
And then I would think that it would be good to send the Urban Till Farm Capital Campaign information on their website to this group. And just because I remember seeing a thermometer thing when I drove by, but I haven't really seen much about the capital campaign. I guess I'm not subscribed to their newsletter, et cetera, but I think you could expand your base if you send it out to this group, and maybe some of us know others, family members or other partners that we could send it to.
Okay. I will send it to you.
Yeah, send it to Helen, and Helen can get it out to us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hey, Tim, can I ask a quick question of Emily? We have a new Fish and Wildlife person here.
Certainly.
Emily, I'm not sure you're aware of what we call the Simple program, where we visit property owners and try to help them with their creeks. We send written reports on what we basically advise the property owners, and sometimes we help them with projects. I'm sending those reports to Melissa Farinha and Jennifer Rippert of Fish and Wildlife. Should I also be sending them to you?
Yeah, that'd be great. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Are you the game warden, or are you the biologist, or what? Which is your role?
I'm the fisheries biologist.
The fisheries biologist. Okay. Then we'll start sending you these reports as well then.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. That was good to get that taken care of.
Yeah.
All right. Now I guess we're ready for a spawners report, Helen.
Yeah, so we have a small core of volunteers who've been continuing maintenance on our site, have put some plants in the ground, and we had a bit of an issue behind the El Sobrante Library last month. The county came in and kind of hacked some plants all the way to the ground. Some were the county's and some were ours. And so we had a really good meeting with them and established a new line of communication. So they'll be reaching out to us before they do any maintenance back there in the future. And we're also going to get some better signage showing what is spawners and what is the county's. So it's a good resolution. And we had a really successful virtual talk in November, and we'll be repeating that in February. It looks like we'll be hearing about ecological food webs and mushrooms. So stay tuned for more.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Great. So now on to the watershed project from Juliana.
Yeah, so we have had a lot of projects in the area. So I'll start with like the kind of North Richmond area. We're happy to finally have a contract with the county for our support on the municipal regional permit. So that is many activities that we do, like around the creek, cleanups and trash assessments and environmental education and land-based cleanups, and a lot of the support for the implementation of the kind of trash and litter reduction program. So that is online, and so is also the water quality monitoring funding from the county. So we're happy to report that the first flush was successful, and like that the monitoring will continue, and Helen leads that. Unfortunately, we had an incident in which one of our very expensive meters was stolen at one of the sites. So we're looking for funding to replace it because it was a huge loss, like $7,000 piece of equipment. So yeah, sad. But but we have kind of alternative equipment that we have lended to other areas in Central and East County. So we're now just kind of having to juggle all the equipment all the time. So more work for Helen and the volunteers coordinating that. So if you guys know of any good source of like inexpensive equipment for creek monitoring, one of those probes that we used to use with the volunteer monitoring program with the county as well, we are looking for buying a used piece of equipment. So we are also kind of moving forward with our urban greening programs in North Richmond and also Brampton and Rollingwood. So we have moved forward with the Hope Gardens. We have funding for an additional 5 gardens from the mitigation fund, and that will make 15 gardens that we have installed in front of people's homes in the median, with the idea of kind of discouraging dumping and kind of keeping people more engaged in kind of keeping an eye on the street and spending more time outdoors. So that will happen in the next couple of months. We're doing outreach already to kind of gain the next 5 kind of homeowner partners for that. We are also identifying urban green opportunities, including tree plantings with Janine. And unfortunately, I think she left. But one of her projects is to kind of help us ground truth actual opportunities on the ground that meet everybody's criteria. So we'll be working with her and with the county, hopefully, in kind of making sure that we have good opportunities that have been vetted by the different stakeholders, so that when we get to kind of project development, we know that it's going to work and it's not in an area that is going to be redeveloped or it has another plan. We're also advancing the idea of the Green Benefit District for an incorporated Contra Costa County. And I think that John Steer may give us a brief update, but we'll be meeting with a student consultant that has been working in developing kind of the conceptual framework. So that's exciting that that's moving forward. And we have had many conversations with other people, including the city of Richmond and the new public works director will be coming on board, and hopefully we'll be able to give him or her an update on kind of how green benefit districts could work also in the city. And then we are starting tree care for the first 50 trees that we planted in North Richmond under our previous CAL relief grant. And now we are identifying the next 50, which we'll be planting with the Walkable Watersheds for Watershed Connections grant, which we still don't have a contract with the county. So hopefully we'll start working on that soon. The next thing that we have completed is the water needs assessment. You remember, like Ann Bremer presented the results from that. And what has come out of it is that now we're moving to a new phase in which the Airwind process gives us money for advancing the projects. So we have $100,000 to advance 2 or 3 projects that were identified in the water needs assessment. And this funding could be used for the design, the conceptual design, or the cost benefit analysis, or the kind of community engagement components. And a lot of the projects that the council has discussed in the past are in the water needs assessment. And this is the next requirement for the application. But what is different now is that we need you, the agencies, to get involved in identifying the projects that you are willing to move forward and apply for funding. And this includes the water pump, the pump in North Richmond, and the fish passage or the overpass, or all of the projects that we have talked about for so many years. So if there is one of those projects that anybody would like to start working on, we may be able to hire your consultant to help you develop that idea. So we don't know how the contracting is going to work, but most likely the money will just come to the watershed project, and then we will hire directly your consultant to work with us on developing the idea, and the watershed project will have staff supporting it. So that's exciting. And then for the city of San Pablo, as Amanda mentioned, we are developing a video for the grand opening of the Wildcat Creek Trail project. So we have kind of a filming crew that is waiting for the project to be kind of like picture perfect, and we'll be going out with a couple of community members and stakeholders and officers from the city to explain the project, and then that will be part of the big opening, which will be a virtual event, probably at the end of February. And last but not least, the Ring Creek project has had a wonderful end of the year. We produced booklets that I don't know if anybody has seen. Maybe Helen can put it on the agenda, link to our website that has the booklet. Oh, the one that has, Sarah has a copy. I don't know if you can see it.
It's gorgeous. I'll put the link to your website.
Yeah, so what we did is we had a very lengthy process, and we had a couple of consultants from the Ohlone people that we hire for the project as well. We hire a local artist to do the illustration, and another local artist to write the story. And so it was written both in English and in Spanish and illustrated. And we had a land acknowledgement dot with the native people, and also a couple of videos explaining the importance of oak trees and kind of water conservation and watershed education. And so we have now a very robust outreach component to tell the neighbors what the project is about. And it was also accompanied by an inserted survey to ask the community to tell us about their opinion around the project, and also about specifics of the project, like type of trees that they would like to see, like preferences, and like trying to kind of define a little bit the planting palette, not only based on the importance of the tree for the restoration purpose, but also kind of like trying to have a little bit more of community input and commitment towards the long-term maintenance and operations for the project to be successful. So this is something new for us to do more, kind of like not so much of the meetings, but more of kind of other ways of communicating and educating. And we were really excited with the results. So I don't know if there was anything else, Sarah or Rich, that you guys wanted us to mention about the project. We're like analyzing the responses from the public. So we have so far 15 surveys back from the community, and we'll be hopefully getting a couple more. So we have about 20 is what we're hoping. These are like residents that live next to the creek, and that will be impacted by the project. And I think that's most of what I had. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that we did a virtual MLK event that is still live. It's in the Richmond Greenway, so it's not in our watershed, but it was a great idea, and it was so successful and so beautiful. It's going to be in place for the rest of the month of February until like the last week of February. And it is an installation that we call the Walk of Dreams. And if you go to our website, you can put a comment of what you would like to see in the area. What is your kind of your dream? And we transcribe it into kind of like this fabric pieces that create kind of like this amazing pattern. And we built kind of a sculpture that has a highlighted hero or kind of environmental justice advocate. And we feature many of the members of the community that have been actively involved in improving that neighborhood. So something that can be done in other communities.
Can I jump in really quick? Juliana, that is all fabulous. And I'm so excited about the Ream Creek work there, because I remember that was always an issue. So I wanted to ask, is it okay to share that storybook with the East Bay Regional Park District? I'm on their Parks Advisory Committee. And I think that there are several members there who would love to see that work that was done with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, it's on the website. Right now, the whole booklet is published also on the website, but if you wanted to have like some physical copies, we printed a limited amount, but we have a couple that we can share or reprint.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's just one copy. Well, actually, you know, since everything's virtual, the website is fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, for the feel, for sure, we'll send you a copy. We'll send one to like whomever you want us to send it to, because the feel of the is intended for children. So the idea is like a 10 to 12-year-old will read it with their parents, and then they will learn about the creek. And that was, I think, a good sweet spot for finding interest.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I would love to have a hard copy of that.
Absolutely. If anybody else wants one, we can like just print a batch. We print it in-house, so it's not expensive.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Lots going on. Now we're on to community-based ecological solutions in the Ream Creek watershed from Rich. Welcome.
Yeah, nice segue, because Juliana just explained most of the work we've done since November, which is around the outreach. The other little bits of information I will provide are that CNRA has accepted our grant proposal for the next round of consideration, which means they will be, we'll all be engaging in a virtual watershed tour or virtual site tour in April, so that we can continue to compete for funding for implementation. And then at their encouragement, we expanded the project to include, we were originally just going to do an assessment of up watershed opportunities to capture floodwaters through rain gardens or bioswales or other green infrastructure devices. They encouraged us to actually put a pilot project for implementation for green infrastructure upstream. So with the city of Richmond, we did a quick assessment on where some of the best opportunities might be and came up with a concept design. So the project has expanded slightly due to that. And so we will get the results of the community feedback from the watershed project sometime in the next couple of weeks, and then RDG will wrap up the 65% designs, particularly the planting plan. And by May, we should be able to report back to you, spend a few minutes just discussing what the latest design is for the project. Sarah, is there anything else we want to say about Ream Creek?
Nope, I think you both covered it.
Yeah, it's all moving along well.
Sarah, do you mind talking about the opportunities analysis and maybe if kind of the process that we'll go after to see if we can link it to this water needs assessment advancement?
Yeah, so at last meeting, and Anthony, I've been meaning to follow up with you about this too. At the last meeting, I gave a presentation on the Ream Creek restoration opportunities analysis, and the group voted to put the several opportunities that we identified into the Wildcat and San Pablo Creek Watershed Council map. So I'll still follow up with you about that. But Juliana and I talked about the kind of the intersection of the water, all of the restoration opportunities in the Ream Creek watershed, and what overlaps with the water needs assessment. So well, I think it's probably best for us to sit down and see the overlap, and then maybe we can bring the highest priorities back to the group, give them an update.
Okay. Great. And then Josh is not here to do SFEP report. Do you have something, Helen, or maybe Riley can talk about it?
I do not have something, and he said he'd be here after 11, so maybe we can come back.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You did mention that earlier. Yeah, we'll come back to him.
Okay. Probably the
Next.
same for the levy.
Yep, but Joe's here. Joe, can you talk
Oh,
about the West County Wastewater District and the horizontal levy, please?
Sure. Yeah. I'll start with just the West County wastewater update. I don't know if any of you are familiar with our previous logo and branding, but we just went through a complete rebranding of the district. I don't know if you can see, but that's our new logo on the sweater I have here. So it's a little
All
more
right.
kind of goes with the water theme more. Our previous logo was just kind of a bird. So you'll be seeing our trucks around San Pablo with that new logo. It also kind of went along with a new whole website redesign. So if you want to go check that out, wcwd.org. We have a whole new website. It's a little more user friendly, a lot more information on there, especially for the public about being clear about what numbers to call for emergency response to sanitary sewer overflows and things like that. Also, pollution prevention information, and we're going to get more on there. I'm working along with we have a public outreach consultant now for the district that we're working with to kind of get more of that kind of P2 pollution prevention information on there for them. So kind of going along with that, one of the things that just got approved at our board meeting last week was we have a proposed public outreach campaign that's going to center around fats, oils, and grease and so-called flushable wipes. And so that's something, obviously, since we're not doing any of our usual community engagement events, just like everybody else because of COVID. We're going to do mainly kind of a social media blast. So we've never really done that before. We do have a Facebook account, the district does, and a YouTube channel. And there is some information on there. We have a couple of good videos on our YouTube channel, and we do regular posts on Facebook, but we're going to kind of hit that harder and actually do some ads on YouTube and Facebook and even Instagram. Like I said, centered around how to dispose of fats, oils, and grease, cooking oil, and what to do with wipes, keeping them out of your toilets. And hopefully we can get that started. We're just literally, like I said, last week got it approved. So we're going to start working on that. So take a look for that. If you don't follow us on Facebook, give us a follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we'll be adding more content there. So the other thing that got approved at the meeting was something I've been working on for several months now. What we wanted to do, one of the things that one of the big parts of our environmental programs is doing our restaurant inspections for fats, oils, and grease. We go out, we check grease traps and make sure people are maintaining them, keeping them clean, obviously, because that contributes to, again, to backups and sanitary sewer overflows. But we have a fee for those inspections. And what we were noticing as COVID began and a lot of the restaurants were shutting down, and some of them were obviously, almost all of them had either gone to just takeout only or 25% capacity. So they were getting hit really hard. And so what we wanted to do is, again, kind of part of an outreach attempt, is to kind of suspend those fees for them. And the big thing was trying to figure out, well, if we're going to tell them they don't have to pay these inspection fees, where are we getting that revenue from? We can't take it from ratepayers, obviously. So fortunately, the district has some unencumbered property tax revenue that comes in, and fortunately, it was enough to cover at least a full year of inspections for the restaurants and food service establishments. So that got approved. So that's kind of nice. Something that it's a very hard hit business sector, because of the pandemic. So we're glad that we're able to do that. And we're still going to do the inspections and still going to enforce and make sure that they're cleaning their grease traps, but at least they don't have to worry about paying the inspection fee. And then other than that, just kind of operationally at the plant, I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I missed the meeting last time. I forget if I gave the update, but we were going through a big inspection of our digesters, our anaerobic digesters, back at the beginning of the year. And as it turned out, they needed quite a bit of work. In fact, they needed to be either completely rehabbed or replaced. So what we're doing right now, both our digesters are completely down. So we have Synagro, a contractor on site that's doing our biosolids dewatering, and they have a belt press, and they're also doing some lime stabilization. And what's nice about that is that it's actually, they're producing a product now that meets the Class B biosolids regulations. So instead of having it trucked off to a landfill as alternative daily cover, it's being transported up to the Sacramento area for land application, amending soils, which is a more beneficial use. So we're actually pretty happy about doing that. And it works out good too, because with the Senate Bill 1383 coming online shortly, which requires organics to be diverted from landfills. So that's something that we were going to have to stop doing anyway, probably in the future. So this just kind of sped up that process, but it's only temporary. We're hoping not to have the contractor on site doing this work for too long. We usually process our own biosolids. It costs us a lot of money to do that. So we're kind of evaluating what our options are. But that's kind of a big change for us this year. And overall, it's a good thing, but we still have to figure out a permanent solution to that. And other than that, I think that's pretty much the update. I could give a quick, do you want me to give an update on the horizontal levee, or should we wait for Josh?
I'm fine with you doing it. That's fine.
Yeah, he may have more info on it. I know he's been talking with Andrew Clow, our deputy GM, more recently, but basically where we're at, and just kind of give a quick update on the process. We were able to secure I believe it was a $675,000 grant from the SF Bay Restoration Authority for basically just the preliminary studies and design on two options for a sea level rise mitigation for the North Richmond area. One would be a levee system, a horizontal living levee that would protect our treatment plant, our infrastructure. So just basically on WCWD property. But the second one is the one we really are looking forward to and hope we can get everybody on board, is more of a collaborative effort that would, I believe the study area would be in between San Pablo Creek and Wildcat Creek. So that whole section of Richmond shoreline, and which there's a lot of landowners involved. There's a lot of stakeholders. Some of you in this group are involved in that group as well. And so we're trying to get everybody on board to go with a more collaborative project to protect more of that area from sea level rise. So last I heard, we were working on a charter for basically the landowners to sign off on, but also some of the other stakeholders that would allow access to these properties just for non-intrusive studies. So we were going to go with an MOU, but we don't really think that's necessary. Charter's probably good enough. And so I think we're almost ready to roll out that charter and get the signatures. And that way we can go out to an RFP to have some engineers come and start doing some of those initial studies of the property. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. I think, like I said, Josh might have some more details because I know he's been talking with our GM a little bit more in depth. So if anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them for you.
Joe, I just wanted to point out, I sent you a message in the chat.
Okay.
I would like to learn some more about the biosolids.
Okay, sure.
Any other questions? All right. Thanks a lot, Joe. And I see Patrick just joined us, so that's good timing, Patrick. So item number 10, City of San Pablo, we already did that. Amanda went first, and now we're on number 11, City of Richmond report with Patrick.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I do have good news. We just heard last Friday back from the Natural Resources Agency that our flood risk reduction in the Ream Creek watershed project has been selected to move forward to the next round.
Great.
And so we will have a virtual site visit in April. That's really exciting. I also just wanted to mention the reason I came late is I usually attend MTC's Active Transit Working Group, which obviously focuses more on bike ped stuff, but I was happy to see that today there was a really great presentation from the County of San Mateo about a sustainable streets master plan, combining complete streets transportation ideas with green streets stormwater kind of stuff. So if anyone is interested in that document, let me know, or I can send out a link to the group. Only other thing I'd like to mention is that we are still working on another large trash capture device project with Caltrans. This project has been rather challenging. This is the fourth one we were trying to do, and the previous ones were rather we're kind of the low-hanging fruit. So we're having difficulty locating, siting something that doesn't have too much conflicts with utilities and tidal influence and all that kind of stuff. But that's what we're working on now. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Any questions for Patrick? All right, then we'll move on to the next item, John Steer and the County Watershed Program.
Hello. Yes, well, several of the updates that I'm going to give were referenced earlier, starting with the various aspects of the North Richmond Watershed Connections project. We're about a month out from having a contract ready to work with Urban Tilth to implement the rain garden project at their farm, and about a few months out for the completion of the contract with Watershed Project with respect to both, well, primarily at first with the greening segment of the first mile, last mile project, which is the Fred Jackson Way, and then the walkable watersheds following on that. Both involve, by the way, planting of, in one case, Philterra trees along Fred Jackson Way, in the other case, about 49 trees that will be in front yards functioning as street trees in the residential section of North Richmond. In addition, Joanna referenced the Green Benefits District feasibility study, which is being done by Sadie Wilson, not only for us in respect to developing a maintenance, permanent maintenance orientation and for GI and also urban greening, but also as for our Department of Conservation Development, because they're very interested in it for the general plan update, because in fact, we've actually changed the name to Community Climate Resiliency District for that purpose, because it would function not only for GI and urban greening, but also for, helping at-risk communities, particularly DAC communities like North Richmond and Bay Point, be more resilient in addressing climate change as the waters rise in the Bay. So that's underway right now. And indeed, this afternoon, Juliana and I are having a conference call with the author. This is being done to, the study is being done really to provide us a basis for developing these districts around the county where they're needed. And essentially, we'll have this done, well, the study should be done by midsummer, and I can make it available to anyone who might be interested on the council. And let me see if there's anything else to speak to. Oh, one other thing I should mention, the little update on the Core Creeks team. That's the approach we're using at the county to address direct discharge for NPDES requirements. And this is where we're engaging the homeless to pick up trash along creeks. A lot of activity last month on Wildcat Creek in the pick and pull area, probably about 3,000 gallons of trash picked up by the homeless there. And at this point, also looking at the possibility of developing a partnership with the emerging group, which Richmond may be working with already. That's Richmond SOS or SOS Richmond with Daniel Barth, which is an orientation to engage homeless at another level, but correspondent to ours. I won't go into detail about it, but that could be an emerging partnership in the future.
Great.
I have a quick question or more of a comment, but because I know the city of San Pablo is also looking into SOS Richmond, and so we don't have to do this now, but I'd love to hear Richmond's thoughts or opinions on how that's working, and then once the county starts to use them as well. So we just wanted to know how that was going and if it works well. So
yeah, Patrick, have you been working with them at all, or know about them?
I do, yeah. I've spoken with Daniel several times, and they do a great job of advertising or publicizing all of their work on Facebook. That's actually how I found out about them initially. Yeah, it's a wonderful group. They're really doing the kind of work that the city is unable to do. They have had to limit some of their activities due to the shelter in place. But we're also exploring other ways to work with them and look for funding.
Good.
Great. All right. Sounds good. Thank you. All right. I noticed that Josh Bratt is on the call. Hey, welcome, Josh. We skipped over you earlier, but Alan told us you were going to be late, so we saved the SFEP report for you. You want to do that now?
Can do. Yeah. Yeah. Am I muted? Can folks hear me?
You're not muted. You're good.
Okay, great. See, our SFEP, our Estuary Partnership Update, is that we are updating our estuary blueprint, which is the comprehensive conservation management plan, or the document that really describes our work plan over kind of a 20-year time horizon, but broken down into sets of actions that have a 5-year task level action time horizon. And we have actions now about restoration of various type of habitats, riparian, transitional, tidal, subtidal, all the works. And we're looking at other metrics beyond just acres restored as a way of tracking this regionally, and looking at other measures or metrics that could be looking at equity, looking at access to open space, looking at perhaps participation from the community in doing restoration, looking for various kinds of metrics that kind of add to the social dynamic and social dimension of what restoration can be, for the people in and around the Bay as well. So I'm actually looking to start some conversations with practitioners on this subject, especially from the nonprofit community, as early as next week, to try to set aside some time to have some in-depth discussions about, how we can relook at our blueprint and our approach, what kind of, ideas folks might have that I can bring back to the working groups, or even invite anyone who wants to participate in a working group. Although I don't know, what that time commitment really looks like. I think we're looking at having our update finished a year from now, but really are hoping to have some idea of what the updated actions could be in the springtime of this year. So really wanting to touch base with the people around the region, getting ideas. So next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, I'm going to be setting aside times and putting out probably a doodle poll for folks who are interested. So look forward to that. My other update is really about the North Richmond horizontal levee stakeholder group. We'll be meeting again next Wednesday. I believe that's I won't say that's the 26th because I'm not sure what day it is. It might be the 29th.
27th.
Could be any one of those dates.
Yeah.
Next Wednesday from 9 to 10:30. This is a lot of the interested parties around the shoreline to continue talking about working together collaboratively for the levee alignment idea, trying to get to a conceptual design in about an 18-month time frame. The West County Wastewater District has submitted its work plan to me, and then as my role as a San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority project manager, I am to look at that updated work plan, bless it, and then they will be releasing an RFP or an RFQ for consultant services. And the big thing we'll probably be talking about next week is the draft charter agreement, which is going to be taking the place of a draft MOU amongst the various entities on the shoreline who are propertied and also just interested to participate in the planning and developing what people's roles are and responsibilities will be and what their commitments should look like. So I think that's my update for both of those two.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, Joe mentioned the charter earlier when he was talking, and sounds like you guys are headed in the right direction, and probably doesn't seem like fast enough, but I'm sure you're getting there.
It's moving like molasses so far, but I think once we have a consultant on board, I think we have a little bit more just kind of framework for activity.
Sure.
Because right now it's just really been dialogue, getting folks to really be on the same page about the vulnerability of North Richmond to flooding, both from the upper watershed and also from sea level rise, and sort of being caught in the middle of that.
Hey, Josh.
Hi, Riley.
Hi. I think it was probably a year and a half ago. I remember I sat down with Phil Williams and he came up with a map of places to avoid with horizontal levees and places that could work out. I have his phone number. What's the possibility of trying to loop him in early? It sounds like you're finally getting to the point of preliminary design ideas.
I think we're just getting to the point of getting to kind of the work plan and what we need to even get to design. And so I think Phil, we will reach out to Phil early on for sure. I'll make sure that that's a high level task.
All right. Yeah, it's complicated out there where you've got the fluvial mixing it up with the tidal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts about that? All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. My item, flood control report. Isn't no projects directly on Wildcat or San Pablo Creeks, and unless there's something that I'm not aware of that you want to ask me about. But the thing I did want to mention was the development at 500 Pittsburgh. I think it's still called Panatone. It's a large warehouse right adjacent to Wildcat Creek and Richmond Parkway. They were, over the last few months, I think they got their levee closure project in place. So they're a few years ago when flood control did our project, we did not raise the levee along the creek corridor for that development. So they were required to satisfy the Army Corps of Engineers themselves. So what the two things they did, one, it was just raise the whole site, brought in a lot of fill material and compacted it. And so they're able to basically say that's no longer a levee situation, but then there was a little gap of maybe 50 feet between that site and the transfer station, looking east, sorry. So the developer built that. So now there's a direct connection from the end of our levee project to the fill that the developer put there. So that means that Wildcat Creek's up to standard for FEMA and the Corps of Engineers to provide 100-year level of protection all through that area, which is good until sea level rise happens. But anyway, for now we're good. Across that hurdle. And then we also did ensure that the developer set aside a 40-foot wide strip on their property for the landing of a future pedestrian bridge across Richmond Parkway. So we saw those right-of-way transaction happen, and that site is an easement to the county.
Tim?
Yes.
I got a call from some people representing the new East Bay Regional Park District Director who replaced Whitney Dotson.
Okay.
Adela, who is that? Can you remind me her name?
Elizabeth, it's Elizabeth Eccles.
Yes, thank you. I tried to put on Elizabeth Eccles' priority list to deal with that Richmond Parkway crossing.
Uh-huh.
To have the Park District champion taking the lead on that. And if I hear back, I'll let everybody know, but I put our request in.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, Riley, I reached out to Sean Dugan, the trails guy, and about this having, just putting a little, just letting him know about the Prop 68 money that's coming up, big opportunity. And he forwarded me on to Katie Hornbeck, the grants manager, and I haven't heard back.
Okay.
But I just followed up again.
Oh, good. All right.
So I'm glad we're coming at them at all angles.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll get them. Okay.
I just had a quick comment that it's not really actually related to either of those projects, but something that Tim said reminded me of something. I need to double check this, but I think we actually have a fair bit of extra, what would be probably clean fill from the Wildcat Creek Trail, since we did lay back the creek so much, and we are using some of that at some of our sites. But if people know of a project that might need some fill, we might have some free that they would just need to come and take on their own. Again, I'm not 100% sure we have extra, but I think we do. And so I can check with the project manager. So if anybody hears of anything, send it my way and I'll work it out with them.
If you can hold on to it for about 6 years, maybe we could use it for a levy.
I don't think it's going to last that long.
But yeah, over at Wildcat Creek near the sediment basin, flood control has a large piece of property with soil disposal and sediment disposal. Even the city of San Pablo has used that. That might still be there in 6 years. But depending on how Peter's project goes, he's going to talk about that in just a second. But I wanted to say a couple things outside the watershed. And with Sarah on the call, Sarah and I have done a virtual high five basically yesterday with getting to a huge milestone on the Three Creeks project over in Brentwood and Marsh Creek. And I read what you said, Sarah, and you couldn't have said it better. It's just been a long project with a lot of cooperation, and both our agencies figure out ways to overcome obstacles and get things done. So yesterday was basically a handoff of the coordination meetings, going from building the first phase of the project, which is widening Marsh Creek and preparing it for all the trees, to yesterday handing it off to the tree coordination efforts and the tree contractor, et cetera, still having flood control and American Rivers involved. But that's a huge accomplishment. And we'd still like to have some way of getting a tour out there, et cetera. We weren't able to have any groundbreaking celebrations or anything, but we did make a video that's gonna go out and hopefully go viral, at least in our community. And everyone had a hand in making that video. Thank you, Sarah, as well. But yeah, that's a kind of a big step for us in flood control of a restoration project that's going to have a lot of natural features and actually a whole lot less maintenance in the future versus our normal flood control channels. So we're looking forward to taking the next step, and a lot of trees are going to go in the ground between now and the end of March. I think is that the schedule, Sarah?
Yeah, exactly. End of March. That's when the majority of trees are going to go in.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You were cut off.
Oh yes, end of March when the trees will go in. And Amanda, this reminded me of your project. You know, trying to celebrate a large scale restoration project that people have been working on for so long virtually. You know, maybe we can learn from each other's virtual celebration events. But I think a way to start.
Yep, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention was our Lower Walnut Creek project reached a big milestone a couple of weeks ago. It actually went out for bid. So I think the bids are due the end of the month, or maybe first week of February. I think it's a 5 or 6 week advertised period. So that is great news, and that means that we'll be able to start construction this summer and make a lot of progress. I'm not sure if the whole thing will be ready this summer, but in fall, it depends on the weather, but that's what we're hoping for. So congratulations to Paul Detchins on that project, and to Flood Control for continuing to move that forward, and we're hoping for tours of that as well. That's a huge wetland restoration and tidal marsh restoration project for us. Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
I just wanted to say that with these projects going in with, you know, that are more environmentally correct for creeks and so on, remember how I wanted to do a session for the APWA fall conference about maintenance techniques for those sorts of projects. And so I just wanted to mention that again so that people could kind of like keep in your mind throughout the year, like if there's a project that you see or that you know that where they've got the maintenance down, or lessons learned might be good. I'm thinking that for the 2021 APWA conference, it would be nice if we had a presentation that, you know, included multiple people from Watershed Council and maybe some actual maintenance folks, so that we can get the word out on how these projects are properly maintained. And you know, everybody's heard the benefits, but the maintenance guys still say, you know, are used to their old ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Bella, did you get that message I sent to you about our experience with maintenance after, oh boy, that was, I think, the fall Watershed Council meeting, or maybe that was spring. Did you get my email about that?
I don't recall getting any response from anybody.
Oh.
Sent it to, like, you know, and so, you know, I could have missed it. But
let me try to, I think I saved it. Let me try to resend it.
Because I think, I mean, I think the timing is really good, and you know, there are a lot of agencies who have expressed interest in a session like that.
Okay. The book I published in 2016, Restoring Neighborhood Streams, has a bunch of pages on that.
Oh, yeah. Now that comes back to me. Yes.
Right. Yes, I'll try to find that message and resend it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, again, it's like on the ground, real life experiences. And, you know, as we go through these projects over the course of the year, I mean, you know, there may be pictures that you take that are perfect examples. And so, you know, if we have it in our minds now, then it's not so much work later to pull something together.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to find that.
Thanks for letting me bump in with that.
Here that may be relevant is like we have a manual kind of like that we have created for some of our biosoils rain gardens that are part of the grants that are already done, which include like some of the kind of maintenance and operations, like schedules and techniques and all of that. That I think that Kat and Anne are like working slowly on. If we had kind of an objective for it, maybe it will be better. We thought we were gonna have some funding for continuing this, but we were interested in doing some trainings for cohorts that eventually could be paid through a green benefit district. This is my big dream. So my idea is that there will be unrestricted funding that goes to green benefit districts to help with the maintenance and operations of this type of infrastructure, and they will be structured by neighborhood or by municipality, we don't know. And then that funding goes to pay crews that have been trained on the maintenance and operation techniques. So if we could all work towards like at least developing this best practices for our region, then we can have at least one thing that can go into either a certification program and or a training program.
Yeah, actually, San Francisco did some work. I think Sarah is familiar with this. Did some work on working. There is a training program, and they did some work on that. And we were gonna, Urban Tills was gonna get involved, but then it kind of fell apart because of the problem with having to send people across the country for training. So something local would be great.
Yeah, and this also applies to green infrastructure in general, because right now I'm working, actually speaking of City of San Francisco, they've got a really good training they've got a very good manual or maintenance manual for green infrastructure. And this is the very sort of thing that Juliana is referring to, not only for creeks, but also for green infrastructure going forward, say in North Richmond on the Fred Jackson Way project, for example. So developing, GB green benefit district for that purpose, is for green infrastructure maintenance is also very valuable.
Yeah.
And then Adela, just as a quick side note too, I know one of the things at San Pablo, we are not necessarily the poster child for great maintenance of projects, but we definitely have some lessons learned, particularly we are finding that some of our creek restoration projects, because we're laying back the creek and creating all the shade and all sorts of stuff, they're really starting to become a hotbed for some of our encampment areas. And so we have been trying some new techniques and new things to discourage that. And so that might be a conversation that we can bring in on what's worked and what has not, because sometimes just
that's
important.
a perfect angle to include in that. Very relevant. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, everyone just kind of keep this in your mind over the year, and at some point in the future, I'll bug folks again and we'll start trying to put something together.
Yeah, and just lastly, this is great, Adela, always so needed maintenance. And I don't know if you've reached out to the Contra Costa Resource Conservation District, has a new program. They just did a presentation at the Contra Costa Watershed Forum, which I think could potentially be a really fantastic role for the RCDs that don't just get grant funding, and they're really starting to take on maintenance. So I want to reach out to Chris Lim.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have Wildcat Creek Fish Passage Subcommittee and Peter Mangarello. Thank you for waiting and almost being last on the agenda. Only Anthony has to wait longer than you.
Okay, well, we're still in communication with DWR about our grant application, which was actually a year ago, but because of COVID and for a variety of other reasons, we still do not have a signed agreement, unfortunately. One of the conditions being working with the Corps and the DWR engineers regarding a design review. And we had a meeting in October, some time ago, with the Corps and DWR, which I thought went pretty well. So we were all very positive, but we have yet to hear from DWR regarding finalizing an agreement. So we're still in a holding pattern. pending communications with DWR, which Gus actually Emergeni is the district is of course the sponsor, and Gus is trying to communicate with them and get this thing worked out. But we're still positive about it. We're hopeful, but it seems to be going awfully slowly, in part perhaps because of COVID last year and this year too, for that matter. We did apply last summer for a California Fish Passage Forum grant with the Watershed Project, and Juliana is the project manager on that, and we're hoping to hear. I don't believe we have heard anything, Juliana, otherwise you'd have told us probably, but if we have, please chime in. And lastly, interestingly enough, Riley and Joe Sullivan with East Bay Regional Park District directed a person from the Water Board who was had some environmental mitigation funds which could potentially be used for actually, it sounded like construction of the, once the designs were approved, and we have final designs and permitting. So we have been sort of in initial contact with a person by the name of Catherine Hart at the Water Board and giving her information about the status of our grant applications and looking into this possibility of additional funding. So Riley, I want to thank you for helping us and sending her our way. Anthony, you may have other things to say, or Riley for that matter. But
that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Great summary, Peter. The only thing I'd say is this, that the meeting with the Army Corps was surprisingly really positive. They were very happy and supportive, and I thought that would be a huge stumbling block, but it was a great meeting, or actually we had a series of meetings, but the last one was really, really encouraging. And so I'm hopeful that DWR will move forward. As I understand, some of their people in that office have been reassigned to COVID tracking, and it's just, it's not our project. It's not the only one that we're waiting to hear back from them on.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. All right, now, last but not least, the Financial Subcommittee report from Anthony.
We have continued to update the Google Sheet document that we have, and Sarah's really the owner of that right now. And there is, there are a few projects that are coming up that I think we should talk about. One of the biggest that I see is the CDFW Prop 1 project that's due in February. And I think we're going to talk about that for the Wildcat Fish Passage project, but that might be something for other folks as well. I haven't dug into it that deeply, but from the first page summary, it looks like a good one to go after. And then we should probably schedule another financial subcommittee meeting.
We have one on the books for Thursday, February 18 at 10 a.m.
Great. All right. Well, that's all I have there. Sarah, do you want to add anything?
No, I just updated the spreadsheet based on Amanda's grant that she mentioned. It's the CNRA Environmental Enhancement and Mitigation Program grant. And that's, they're accepting applications through March 5th. And then of course we have the big state parks grants, which everyone knows about. And then just a few other ones coming soon, sometime in 2021 spring. So if you're looking for a grant, check out the spreadsheet. And then Anthony, if you could add that CDFW one to the spreadsheet, I think I just gave you access. I don't know why you don't have it.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why I got kicked off, but yeah, I just saw that. So I'll add the CDFW one in there right now.
Okay. Great, and thanks, Helen, for organizing our next meeting.
All right. Anybody else have anything you want to add?
I have a new item, Helen, to add to future agendas. I don't see Jonathan Owens on the call anymore, but he emailed me about this earlier this morning. Following up on the work that Anthony did with Laurel Collins years ago on sediment management in Wildcat Canyon, the East Bay Regional Park District has hired Balance to do to advance a couple different design options for Jewel Lake. One of them being routing the Wildcat Creek around Jewel Lake. And RDG is involved just to, we're helping them with public access elements of that. I don't know enough about it myself. I'm not involved directly to say much more than that, but I think we want to put it on the agenda for future updates. And then I have a non-Wildcat question. Green Valley Creek came up earlier in discussion. Drew is looking for sources of willow out in that part of the county. I don't know if anyone here is aware of good harvest sites for willow to use in that project.
What was the location again?
Danville-ish.
Yeah, we should, flood control should have some, we have the detention basin on Camino Tasajara. A little bit south of that, we have an area that's actually called Red Willow Park. It has lots of willows there.
Great. I will, who should he contact at the flood control district? Find out more about that, you or somebody else?
Yeah, you could start with me, and then I'll hand it off to somebody to follow up, and then we would issue a encroachment permit for them to come on our property and do harvesting and provide. We've done this so many times in the past. I think we have all the harvesting guidelines figured out. You know, not cutting more than 1/3 of the tree, and yeah. Anyway, all those different things.
I'll pass that on to Drew. Thanks, Tim.
Sure. Anyone else have anything you'd like to add? Okay, seeing nothing, then I guess it's time to talk about the next meeting.
Yeah, so the third Thursday in March, I actually can't do, and I'm wondering if the 4th would work for folks. That would be Thursday, March 25th.
That would work better for me, just so that people know if we continue to do the third Thursday, that's not necessarily an issue, but the third Thursday is now the statewide illegal dumping call that's going on that I've been assigned to at this point. So I will always be only kind of jumping on and off if we want to keep the third Thursday. Not that you have to make your schedules around me, but just
Yeah, I think we used to have, didn't we used to have these on the 4th Thursdays all the time? And so now we're at the 3rd Thursday, so it's, yeah. Sometimes we switch it over, but for, yeah, the 25th should work for me.
Okay, great. So that'll be Thursday, March 25th, 10 a.m.
Great. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. It was a good meeting today. Thank you, Helen, for running the meeting, and we'll be in touch. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.